Okay, ready to dive in? Time travel, right. It's like the ultimate what if. I mean, who hasn't thought about, like, hopping in a DeLorean, maybe acing that history test they flunked? Or, like, snagging front row seats to their favorite band back in the day?
Totally, the ultimate fantasy.
But the story we're looking at today, it uses time travel to get into something way deeper than just, messing around with the space-time continuum.
It really gets at that human need to connect, to find your people,
Mm,
even if, well, even if they're not exactly in your time.
exactly. So we're diving into Clocking Time by Mark McClure, and right away we meet Brian. He's a young guy living in this future that's, well, not exactly the shiny utopia we sometimes picture. Have you ever felt that way
Mhm.
about the future? Like maybe it's not all going to be flying cars and robot maids?
Oh, absolutely. And in Brian's world, it's the opposite. He's stuck on Albion, this isolated island nation where everything's controlled. It's almost suffocating.
Yeah, bleak is a good word for it, and that's important, right? It's like the author's setting up why Brian is so drawn to time travel. It's more than just a fun experiment for him, it's an escape.
Exactly. And it's not the fun kind of time travel either, like popping in on a Roman emperor for a quick chat. These time jumps are brutal on Brian, physically and emotionally. He's left drained, wrung out. And the story makes you feel like he's experiencing it way differently than others who can also time travel. It makes you wonder, what makes Brian different? Why is it hitting him so hard?
And then there's Nina, our link to the present day. Living in Japan, so a world away from Brian's super controlled Albion, Nina's an artist, a free spirit, and somehow she seems to get what Brian's going through.
Nina's world is like the flip side of Brian's. The story really plays that up her studio is filled with light and the sounds of the city, crickets chirping outside her window. It's the total opposite of Brian's life. And it makes you feel what he's craving, that freedom, those small joys.
And even the way they connect is fascinating.
Yeah,
It's not like they're, having coffee across the cosmos. It's all these jumbled thoughts, weird fragmented senses.
right. It's messy, unpredictable. They can't totally control what they share, what they experience, which honestly makes their bond even more interesting, don't you think?
And it's not always, sunshine and roses, is it? Remember that shower scene? Awkward timing much. But it makes you think about relationships, even in the same time zone. All those little misunderstandings, those moments when you're not quite sure what the other person's feeling.
Totally. Even across time and space, those struggles to connect, they're universal. But that's where clocking time takes this turn. It's not just about a long-distance time travel romance. There's something much bigger going on.
Oh, yeah. Things get really interesting when we realize Brian's not just some random guy with a cool ability. He's part of this whole program, and let's just say they are not happy about his little trips to see Nina.
Not even a little. And the program, it's not just some innocent research project. It becomes really clear they have a plan for these kids who can time jump.
Mhm.
Something way more calculated, something kind of chilling when you realize what it means.
It's like a mirror to any system that tries to control people,
Right.
right? You see it in those creepy little interactions Brian has with Dr. Bleek and that weird pink-haired colleague of his.
The way they show up at his house. All smiles, but there's this underlying threat,
Yeah.
trying to reel him back in. They use that language of manipulation, calling his time jumps a sleep disorder, dangling these promises a better life, a good job if he just behaves. Classic coercive control. Ever run into that? Someone trying to make you feel like you owe them something.
For sure. Makes you realize how insidious that can be. And the best part, Ryan sees right through it. He's not buying what they're selling.
Right. He gets that they want to turn him into some kind of weapon. And this is where clocking time becomes more than just a time travel story. It's about rebellion, about fighting for yourself even when you're up against something huge.
He pushes back, doesn't he? Reading from his jump recordings, making sure they hear him mention Nina Satoyama. Like in WS they're listening, knows they're trying to control him, and he just puts it out there. Total power move.
It flips the script. Suddenly, Brian's not just their little experiment. He's dangerous, someone who could wreck their plans. You can practically see the fear in their eyes when they realize they might not be able to control him so easily after all.
And that brings us to the escape, right? With the program closing in, Brian makes a choice. And it's a big one. He runs to Nina, even though there's no guarantee he can even control the jump or that he'll survive it at all.
And the author doesn't hold back on the suspense. You're right there with Brian, feeling the ground shake as those drones chase him through that roundabout, those holographic billboards flashing his face, calling him dangerous. You can practically taste the fear, the adrenaline.
Talk about a cliffhanger. Drones closing in, all hope seems lost, and then something incredible happens. So Last we saw Brian, right? He was kind of having a bad day, drones on his tail, basically jumping into the unknown. The suspense was killing me. But then clocking time goes from this like edge of your seat escape to something kind of beautiful, wouldn't you say?
It's a fantastic twist. Just when you think it's over for him, Nina, she enters the picture.
Yaita.
But not in a small way. We're talking full-on, larger than life. Suddenly, she's plastered over those huge holographic billboards, crossbow in hand, enough arrows to take out an army. It's incredible.
Right. Talk about an entrance. 1 second he's surrounded, the next, bam. Nina's this total cyberpunk warrior staring down the whole system. That gave me chills. Have you ever had someone, have your back like that? Someone who'd fight the world for you?
It really shows how strong their bond is.
Mm.
Because remember, their communication, it's always been these jumbled thoughts, these weird sensory things. But in this moment, they're totally in sync. Nina just knows, and she acts. No hesitation.
It's like the author saying, rules. What rules? Sometimes that connection, that love, it just finds a way, and that escape. The way he writes it, like reality's mending around them. Running for that cave, lightning flashing thunder, pure movie magic.
And what's really interesting is it doesn't end tied up in a neat bow.
Yeah.
You're left with this image of Brian and Nina together, but in this in-between space. Not his time, not hers. It makes you think, what is freedom? Is it a place, a time, or is it about belonging,
Yeah.
connection, no matter where you are?
It's a question that stays with you. And that's what makes a story great, right? When it makes you think about your life. If you could time jump, not to change things or see the future, but just to connect with someone, where would you go? What does that say about you? Clocking time, it's wild. It makes you think about free will, about choices, about what we risk for the people we love. It's more than just time travel. It's a love story. It's an adventure. Do yourself a favor. Check out Clocking Time by Mark McClure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep thinking, keep diving deep.